How's it going, guys? Thanks for checking in. This is Jay with Midstate Land Solutions. Today we are doing a little parking lot, gravel parking lot area, and what we got to do, we got probably somewhere around 100 tons, give or take. My dad hauled 10 loads over here, the single axle, yesterday, and what we're gonna do is just spread this rock out, extend this parking area back a little bit farther towards the fence. And so this is that same material that we used on one of our last videos when we were dressing up the culvert area, that little parking lot there. So pretty much the same stuff. It's mostly CA6 and asphalt millings with some bigger chunks mixed in with it. So what we are gonna do today, I brought the Harley rake with me. If you guys remember, on one of my last videos, I had the Harley rake, and you saw how I graded out that parking lot and got it cleaned up really nice. Today, weather's much nicer. Perfect day for me to really go in depth about the use, application, and how-to with this Harley rake. So, hope you guys can pick something up here. This is how I use the Harley rake. There may be some other people who prefer a couple other ways to utilize it. Please share. I'm always down to learn new things. Let me know what you guys think. For right now, we'll go ahead and get started knocking down a couple of these piles, getting it rough graded, and see where it gets us. Alright, so we have got this rock, what I would consider rough graded, tossed in, whatever you want to call it. So I basically just tried to spread it out as evenly as possible. It's not perfect, I got to touch up a couple of areas, but overall it's in here somewhat decent. And I think we are actually gonna be done with the bucket. I don't think we're gonna use the bucket anymore on this. Now, I know you guys are like, what? You're crazy. There's no way that thing's not smooth. I would not want my parking lot looking like that. I need you guys just to trust me. Watch me run this Harley rake over here. See how much this cleans it up. So we've got a lot of these big chunks that are less than ideal for a final product on top. You know, if it was something we're using as fill, even as base rock or something like that, a little bit different story. This right here definitely is not something that you want on top of your parking lot. So luckily the Harley rake is going to do a really nice job gathering all of these and kicking it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to come across this thing at least 2 times, if not 3 or 4 times with the Harley rake, but it goes fairly quick. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go perpendicular passes. So basically what we'll probably do right off the start, start up there by that fence, and we're gonna run this way. So we'll make a pass, push all the big rocks out to the edge, move over 6 feet, make another pass, and we'll just keep working our way back this direction. And so that will probably take care of 3/4, if not 80% of all the big chunks that are going to be on top of this. And then what's going to happen is they're all going to end up right here on the edge, and then our second pass will be going lengthwise on this, so perpendicular to our first pass, and that is going to then kick all the rocks. Now, I don't know what direction. We'll probably go this way. We'll probably shoot it this way. So we'll start down at that end over there and make our passes going like this, and that's going to end up pushing some more of the remaining oversized pieces of asphalt and stuff over to this side where we can scoop them up. It might even actually kind of bury it right here on the edge. We'll see how it looks at the end. If it looks decent, we'll just leave them. If we need to, we'll scoop them up and get them out of here. So either way, it's going to turn out really good. Like I said, we're only probably 20-30 minutes into this, so we'll go ahead and get the Harley rake put on and we'll start grading this thing. So before we get started, I'll just touch on kind of the operation of this Harley rake. This thing is primarily a landscape tool, so we use it mostly on finished grading, yards, anything like that. It works great in the dirt. Any sort of debris or bulky material, roots, rocks, stuff like that that's in the soil. If it's in the first couple inches of the soil, it'll end up pulling that up, and then basically gathering, windrowing it if you have it angled to one side or the other. And it also creates a really, really nice soil bed. So you can see these little carbide knobs on here. Those almost act like kind of like a tilling function to some extent. And as soon as it hits that dirt, it loosens it up, makes a really, really good seed bed. So there's a couple different trains of thought when running Harley rakes and finish grading. My train of thought is pretty much always run it in forwards if you can. With the track machine, running it in forward, you don't leave too big of a footprint on the final grade, especially when it comes to soil. If we're gonna get ready to prep for hydro seeding, sod, whatever the case may be, obviously we don't want any big ruts in the ground. Luckily this thing only works the first couple inches of the soil, so it's not like we're doing a big deep till. And so when we go over it with the tracks, obviously tracks don't have that much ground pressure to them. The footprint of the tracks behind this Harley rake are very small. As a matter of fact, we typically just go out and hand rake them, and they're even with the rest of the ground, and everything's just fine. If you have a wheeled machine, it might be a little bit different story. There's a lot more ground pressure. You might leave some impressions where those wheels were as you're making your final passes. That might be an application where you try to run this thing in reverse. But generally speaking, I will run this thing in forwards 99% of the time. So with that being said, the drum direction matters. This drum's right here where all the teeth are can run either forwards, and when I say forwards, I mean it's pushing material forward towards you, or it can run in the opposite direction, backwards, whatever you want to call it, where it's actually pushing material away from you, or away from the direction in which the machine is. So I like to run it forward. What that does is when it runs forward, it keeps kicking up all the bigger chunks. So as this drum spins like this, it keeps pushing all the big chunks of material in front of you to give you the opportunity to gather those, make a pile and gather them. When you run it in reverse, you have the ability to actually do a little bit of tilling with it. It loosens the ground, but it doesn't do a really good job of grading and smoothing things out. So there's a time and a place for it for sure. Majority of the time we're going to run it forwards with that drum pushing the material with you. The idea of the Harley rake is somewhat similar to like a motor grader, something like that. We've got, in this instance, it's a drum instead of a blade, but you have wheels up front, and then you have the track, the machine, in the back of the drum. So we're going to be grading off of two different planes here, whereas a dozer is just a single plane, like a dozer blade or something like that, of the bucket. So it makes it really, really nice for grading things and leveling it out. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. I'm gonna put the camera up on the cab again and let you guys take a look and see kind of how I'm running this on over this gravel, and then we'll stop and talk about then when we change directions what we're gonna do there. So what I'm doing here is basically taking and pushing material from where I'm starting and pushing it to the edge of where the parking lot will be. And what's happening is, as I'm pulling forward, I'm gaining what I would consider like a box worth of material. I'm carrying a full load of material in front of me, and so what that's doing is then, as I've got a full box of material, it fills in any sort of low spots, and it will cut down on any of the high spots and just makes the whole thing very, very smooth. And so from forwards to backwards, that's very smooth. Now, as I said earlier, it may be a little bit uneven from left to right the way we're looking right now, and that's why we at some point will turn perpendicular and go 90 degrees, because then we will start to even out that plane from left to right. So if you take a look from this side to that side, we're pretty level. Looks pretty decent, but if you stare across it this way, you can tell there's just a couple of imperfections, and so that's basically the nature of using a Harley rake, is that you want to hit it from at least two different directions as you can, because we've got it pretty good this way, but now we need to smooth it out this way. So in an absolute perfect world, if you had all four sides accessible to where you could come in and grade from all four sides, you would do a pass this way, turn 90 degrees, do a pass that way, turn 90 degrees, do a pass that way, and then do another 90 and finish it out like that. That would be in an ideal perfect world. Unfortunately, that almost never is possible. This, obviously, we only have access to like this side. We could back up and start from over here too if we wanted to. That side, obviously, with the fence over there, we wouldn't be able to get that very edge. So not a problem. This is very doable. Finish this out. But yeah, if you come and take a look at these piles, there's a lot more bigger material chunks in here, and that's exactly what we wanted, was to get them all off the top. If you were to dig down under here a few inches, some of the bigger chunks are under there. This thing only goes in maybe an inch or two, depending on how shallow you've got it set. So, but the stuff underneath the first couple inches, really not a big deal. If it's a couple of big chunks underneath there, no problem. They're never going to cause an issue for parking. So we'll go ahead, we'll turn, we'll get going grading on this other side. again, take note on how you can see there is a full box worth, I guess if you want to call it that, of material that just keeps rolling in front, and that's why we run that Harley rake in the direction in which we are moving, because as we go forward, any sort of low spots are filled in with that material that's being pushed forward by that drum, and then any sort of high spots that we come across, it'll actually cut it down. And so that's how we obtain the material to begin with. Any sort of highs or lows are filled in and cut down as needed. So the more we keep going over this, the smoother it's going to get, generally speaking, on something like this. Anywhere from like 2 to 4 passes is going to give you a really good final product, and of course that is all dependent on how well you throw it in there, grade it in there to begin with. I didn't spend a whole lot of time really touching it up and making sure that it was rough graded or placed well, so that's the trade-off. I might spend just another couple minutes Harley raking, smoothing a couple things out, but honestly I think that it's a lot quicker this way, and it gives you a better final product. Alright, so we are getting there. I pushed now a pass back over the fence here. You can see we've got a little more piled up over here, which is fine. I can fill in a couple of these areas. You can see we're coming up with mostly bigger chunks, so that's perfect. We might just scoop those up and clean those out of the pile as needed. So now we're pretty even this way now. If you stand back and look across it, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I think what we're gonna do is one more pass this way, and I think I'm gonna also windrow it towards the end down there as I'm working my way forward. So we're also not only going to push our material this way, we're also going to kind of carry a little bit this way. And any sort of chunks that are still kind of just barely on the tops, maybe some of the smaller ones, will eventually kind of work their way. We'll keep pushing them that way. And then after that, we'll just clean up this edge one more time, touch up the grass down there where we might have tore it up a little bit. And I think that'll be that for this project. All right, I think that's that. Everything's pretty dang smooth here. I'm gonna clean up the edges just a little bit. We got some chunks here. I'll scoop up the bucket. Straighten out this edge maybe just a smidge, but other than that, I think we got her. That looks pretty good. I had quite a bit of parking for these guys, so hopefully put it to good use, and I think that's about it. So hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully you guys learned something. Anybody else that runs a Harley rake all the time have anything else to add? Any comments? Any tips? Please feel free. I'm always up for learning new things, so let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching.